Now, I'm speaking to you in English, right? New York English, a little bit of Boston English thrown in there, right? Most of you are not native English speakers, okay? We all come from different backgrounds, and one of the things that is truly challenging is our ability to communicate through words. I say something, but it doesn't mean that you hear what I'm saying as I intended it. So one of the great illusions of verbal communication is that it has been accomplished. More often than not, it's been jarbled. And I know that as a professor here, when I say 5 times something, and students raise their hand and say, can you tell me what you meant by that, okay? It's just common nature. One of the reasons this is so important is if you just use traditional market research methods, if you go just interview people, ask them what they want, there's all kinds of room for miscommunication, misunderstanding, misinterpretation. So Jose Colucci, who was an Italian man who grew up in Brazil, one of the senior IDEO partners here in Boston, gentleman who has come over to the campus numerous times with me as a guest lecturer. I love this. People don't do what they say they do. They don't do what we think they're going to do, and they don't even do what they think they're going to do. They do what they do, okay? And if you want to ask them something, they're going to tell you something that they want you to believe they're going to do. So there's no substitute for watching them, to be an anthropologist, to see your user in the wild and watch them struggle. That's why prototyping becomes so important, okay? Because it's the only way you can really get good feedback, okay? So this is exactly as Michaela said, it's about showing, don't telling, okay? So what is a prototype defined? It's an early sample or model or product release, and it's designed to test a concept or test a process. So tonight, you have 10 different projects that you have identified your interest, right? Now, I'll go through those projects. There's a number of you that are focusing on 1 or 2 key projects, right? You want to be able to test whether those projects are actually viable, okay? And it's something that can be learned from. Now, prototypes are not expected to be elegant, and they're certainly not expected to be perfect, okay? They're expected to be rough, incomplete, relatively low fidelity, low quality, inexpensive, and very quick, okay? So, we prototype in order to test, right, validate, and again, there's a phrase that I've heard multiple times. You want to sleep with your hypothesis, you don't want to marry it, okay? And the message is you don't want to get too close to your idea. You don't want to believe that your idea is perfect. You've got to have a certain level of objectivity, right? Because you've got to be willing to allow people to take your idea and challenge it and to criticize it, okay? So, anybody ever been to the Clover restaurant on the MIT campus in Kendall Square? Yeah. Okay, if you've ever been to Clover, you'll see this sign on the wall. This is a classic MIT restaurant. Everything they do is a prototype, okay? This is a place that serves a lot of healthy food. We will screw something up. We'll screw many things up. Tell us when that happens. If you have an idea that will improve us, please speak up. Thank you, okay? This is the mindset that I want you guys to have. Expect to fail. There's always going to be failure, okay? So you can use Legos to create prototypes, okay? There's many, many very creative things that have been created first with a Lego, okay? You can do sketches. How many people in the room love to sketch? It's a great first effort, is to create a sketch of what you're trying to do, of the user experience, okay? In some cases, you can use simple props. In this instance, this was the first prototype of a device, an extremely successful medical device that was used by an ear, nose, and throat specialist, all right, to perform surgery. Nothing more than a dry erase marker and a paper clip and a roll of tape. But when that prototype was created, people understood instantly what that device was supposed to look like, okay? Or you can create all kinds of digital prototypes using Photoshop, okay? Or you can do far more high fidelity prototypes, which is at the end of the process. In this case, it might be a simple virtual reality app to guide people through the experience that you're trying to deliver, okay? Now let's step back here, and this is now really the essence of what I want you guys to focus on tonight. When I say a customer experience or a customer journey, what do I mean by that? Why is it important to put yourselves in the shoes of the customer and understand the journey that they take, right? Please.
Because we want to know their mindset, whatever they want from us. So if we fit in the customer's shoes, we know exactly what they're looking for, so that we can make the exact product for them.
Right, and so exactly, so you're inserting yourself in the customer's shoes. So for example, someone raised their hand and tell me the project that you want to work on tonight. What's the project that someone wants to work on? Anybody want to volunteer? Someone raise their hand, because...
University.
Anybody? Yeah? Okay, Daniela? Okay, so free desk, right? So free desk is where there's empty seats on college campuses, and there are students that could theoretically benefit from a discounted price to attend those classes, right? So imagine now that you're a student that is thinking about, for the first time, going to university and trying to take advantage of these empty desks. How do you put yourself in their shoes? Imagine every step along the way, from educating them about the availability of an empty desk, educating them on why they may not feel uncomfortable being sort of a guest to the campus, how they learn of where those empty desks are, how you coordinate the different classes, how you begin to interact with them, how you onboard them, how you actually have them come to class, how you include them in the registration role, how they become a member of the cohort. So there's a tremendous number of small steps along that journey that gets them from thinking about coming to actually sitting in the classroom and having the experience of any other student that's paying full price, okay? And so I want you to think about that journey that the customer takes every time they touch the empty desk platform, right? They're having an experience. That experience could be a good experience or a bad experience. But your job is to make sure that every step along the way is a cumulatively positive experience. Now, here's another example, right? So that one was a journey of onboarding someone with a credit card. This is a very simple journey of someone who is renting a car at an airport. And we've all been there. And if you've been renting cars at airports for a while, you see that they continue to try to make this experience easier and easier and easier, right? The company called Enterprise in America has tried to make it so easy that they deliver the car to you, right? Enterprise will drive you home. They will actually deliver the car to your house. Zipcar makes cars available by leaving them all over the city so that you can have the convenience of picking up a car in your neighborhood, right? So, smart cars, you just literally use your mobile phone and you can get into a car and drive away, right? So just think about what it used to be like to go to an airport at Hertz and stand in line for an hour because everybody got off the plane at the same time. And there were two very, very slow clerks there. And you'd be getting there late at night and you're looking at your watch and a half hour has gone by and then an hour has gone by and you're still in line at the Hertz or Avis counter waiting for your car, okay? And so obviously customers hated that. And all of the feedback has been, hey Ben, how you doing? All the feedback has been to continuously make that experience a less friction intense experience, right? So that's what I want you guys to do. Put yourself into the journey that your user is taking and understand where the most likely friction points are and try to design ways for them to have a better experience, okay? One of the things you have to understand is that you can't design your app for everybody. You have to have a point of view. You need to define a specific persona. So when I say persona, what is a persona? I know a lot of my MIMs or IMIB students probably know that from Protohack. So what's a persona? It's the ideal customer, but say more than that. Yes, it's the ideal customer. But why do we call it a persona? Okay, so but let me give you a slightly different answer. Rox, did you have your hand up? Yeah? Okay, so you're both right? But there's a little bit more depth to that, which is you're bringing this target customer to life, right? It's a composite of your market, but you're giving it a name, you're giving it a personality, right? It's as if you know this person. And so this person sort of is the embodiment of that target customer. They have a personality. You know where they live, you know what kind of income they have, you know what size family they have, you know what they love to do in their spare time, right? The more you understand that target customer, the more capable you are of designing something for them that is meaningful and relevant, right? So as you sit down tonight, you're not designing a product for everybody. you need to say, I need to focus on a persona. Is that persona the student? Is it the parent of the student? Might that be, for example, in, you know, a lot of you are working on this Invest in Education program, right? Where someone is going to contribute to your tuition, and then they're going to get a percentage of your earnings for a number of years when they graduate, right? So you can imagine that another important persona is the individual who is investing in that person's education, right? And so what is the value proposition that that person investing in that person's education cares about? So remember, there are many different, especially in these multi-sided platforms, there are many stakeholders, many constituents, many personas. Be very clear about the persona that you're designing for. We only have one night. We only have a few hours to prototype. So you want to get really laser focused on this, okay? So this is what you do. You're putting a face on a very abstract problem on a target market, okay? Whatever that person might look like, okay? Many kinds of customers or users, okay? Someone who's actually going to use the app, someone who's going to influence others to use the app, someone who's going to recommend, right? So if you're talking about working with universities, it's a very complex enterprise cycle. There's a lot of decision makers that are involved in that, right? There are people that will resist, right? I talked yesterday in class and in the last 2 days about enemies of the future, people that don't like progress, people that like the status quo, universities that want people to pay full tuition to show up because they need to keep their gross margins up, and they're not going to like to see things like this MOOC idea where we're going to drive a lot of education into online courses for free or for low investment. Okay, so think about who your personas are.